Hi everyone, I'm Leung Rachel Kayan living in Hong Kong, and I was born and raised here. I'm currently a university student and poet, and I've chosen a poem of mine that I would like to share with you. My poem, Sweet Like a Bough, is a pastiche of Michael Ondaatje's original poem. The poem draws from my own culture and identity as a Cantonese speaker, and they adhere to the structure of Ondaatje's original in that it retains the list format of similes drawing from the target culture. The similes, like the original, are often imaginative, nonsensical, and satirical, aiming to produce vibrant cultural images and impressions, a celebration of the Cantonese identity. Sweet Like a Bough by Leung Rachel Kayan, a pastiche of Michael Ondaatje's poem, Sweet Like a Crow. Your voice sounds like the red of a lampshade at the red market, like the flopping of fish on the chopping block, like swearing taxi drivers, like a leaky AC unit, like the innards of a too-hot dim sum, like a stray cat meowing, a chow mein being chowed, a truck mixing concrete, a Canton opera at the Central Pier, like an octopus cart beep, like a plethora of neon light boxes, like pergolas in the park, a chestnut shell, an emptier crowd when the doors are closing, like the speed meter on a red minibus, like Tahsil Bao, an old-style cash register, like a million Mark 6 balls being scrambled, like someone trying to subdivide a flat. The opening jingle of a TV documentary 3 doors down, a really uninteresting PSA on Radio 1, the sound of a waiter when someone is slow to order, like durians being opened on a rock, like a whole housing estate airing out their dirty laundry on a Monday, like an enthusiastic beginner shuffling the mahjong tiles, like ta tan tang, like 7 oranges rolling down the slope, like 5 pickpockets pickpocketing, like the sound I heard when having an afternoon sleep and someone tried to tune the piano.
J.P. Linstroth from the United States. I'd like to thank Dr. Jillian Bickley and Dr. Werner Bickley and the Proverse team for inviting me to read from one of my poems that was included in the anthology Mingled Voices Volume 3, 2018. I was also asked to mention that I was shortlisted for the 2019 Proverse Prize. And the poem I'm about to read is a series of poems that I wrote about the US-Mexican border and the current migration crisis throughout the world. The poem is called The Crossing, and again, my name is J.P. Linstroth. Across stark ravines and arroyos, they crossed the Sonora. They were 3 plus their coyote. Organ pipe cacti stood tall in blue shadows, as if hidden men staring at them they crossed. It was very, very dark with the exception of a lantern moon. Its orb some enormous fish's eye in the great deep, illuming depths of a fathomless ocean in the pitch blackness. Winking in and out of thin clouds crossing the dark skies. Along a worn sandy path, they encountered a woman and her child. They shared a cantina of tepid water. And if you could see their faces, you would see their desperation. But their faces were black in the shadows. And even in the cold desert night, they were sweating. Of a sudden, there was a helicopter overhead, irradiating the organ pipe cacti and the sagebrush and the sand. And this great light searched them out. This light, like a great illumined eye, found them. As they were caught by the great beam, they began running in all directions, panicked and scared. Like lizards scurrying toward the shade of rocks in a beaming sun, and yet hiding from a raptor's eye of some maniacal and mechanical immense eagle. From a distance, headlights also could be seen, coming toward them, converging on them in 3 directions, kicking up dust in the beams. 6 shafts of light moving up and down, with the rusty dust wafting into the night air. As organ pipe cacti and sagebrush illumined, throwing haphazard shadows in the cold desert night. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jun Pan. I live in Hong Kong and I'm Chinese by birth. I'm reading my poem, Escape Overture, on page 106 of Mingled Voices 3. It is the first part of the sequence poem, Escape. Each part of the sequence is associated with a certain music style. Escape, Overture. Black leaves, grey canals, mottled memories. A slope extending into darkness. Shimmering stars, murmuring crowds, crumbled faces. You left. The rose petals you put into the envelope, along with the morning dew, still stay in my drawer. The song I played along with, C'est la vie, c'est la vie, c'est la vie. If only you grabbed my hand that foggy night. If only you kissed my lips under the London plan. Waterways, backyards, the blue moon. Wine bottles, bridge, wuthering trains. I left.
Hello everyone. My name is Joanna Radwanska-Williams. I'm originally from Poland, but now I live in Macau. My poem is called Dreams of Evening. It can be found on page 117 of Mingled Voices 3. Dreams of Evening. Now it is morning. I wish it were night. I wish I could roll up like a caterpillar to hibernate and transform. Then after many dawns, my wings would grow, stretched by capillaries of fresh blood. Now it is morning. Outside, the children play at school break. Then they become constrained. When they go home, they will savor fried rice and bitter melon gourd. Evening will roll a veil. At night, we will all dream separate dreams until the alarm time of awakening.
Hello. From Mingled Voices 3, The Notebook. I cannot find my notebook where I write. It may be under a book, inside a pocket, under a sky of white paper, inside a roar of ideas. I had to write of ginger moons, naming months, and of trees, my friends. I have to tell of friendly voices, of the dripping hours slipping away, swallowing each other. I have to write about fragments of life, of grim events, of the current impatient condition, then active in an eternal movement.
I'm José Manuel Sevilla. I'm going to read the poem The Talking Photo that appeared in Mingled Voices 3 and also on my last book published by Proverse called The Year of the Apparitions. And that was my first book published in English. The Talking Photo. Auntie Trinidad tells that soon after she arrived in heaven, an angel that back on earth had been a little bit a con artist and a little bit her brother-in-law, showed up with a trumpet for annunciations and a blackboard because he couldn't speak. His voice in this world was prisoner in a very strange and captive way. Auntie, who knew the ways of life, laughed for the first time after her funeral and, fed up of the blackboard, said to him that only the sun, the moon, and the vehemence, that's how she called the pushes of sex, come back to the world, and that she would believe otherwise only when the sun comes back to the mother's belly or the statue of Don Juan in Seville comes back to the lost walks. My voice didn't die. It stayed in a photo, wrote the angel. And that photo is on earth. That's why I come to you, Trini. I've waited so long for you. And then it all changed. Auntie Trinidad remembered, with an unaccustomed shock, that I had a talking photo. Sometimes talking a lot, sometimes quiet for weeks. I have it in the living room, inside a frame from El Corte Inglés, in front of the TV, and next to a phone where a vengeance that is not relevant now was born, some bottles of smells of the middle class, and my albums with all the family lies. Very few know about this talking photo. I never received visits at home, and Mrs. Raquel, who does not fear the dead but the followers of Mr. Trump, cleans it with a bit of bad mood 3 times a week, quiet or talking. I have heard that voice from someone behind the camera that took the photograph of my parents on their wedding day, hundreds, thousands of times. My beliefs guide me without excess and always welcome me when I look at the watch stopped at 8:15 in Hiroshima, or when I take a bath in the waters where the African immigrants sink, or when the shame of being born in a country of thieves burns. These are my secrets. The things that accompany me also have secrets. The switch-off TV with the Twin Towers inside, the phone, the bottles, the albums, and the photo where a hidden man whispers, "It's done tonight at 9. Finally, I know whose is the voice of the talking photo. What I don't know is who listened and why it mattered. She will never tell me. Auntie Trinidad.
Hello everyone, I'm Jeddie, living in Jakarta, and I'm Indonesian by birth. This poem is called In the Waves of Midnight. In the waves of midnight, I have witnessed my people migrating through salt and water. They hurled their sacks of clothes from the boat to the shore, from wood to embers, and from ashes to homes. Mothers kept past lives in their pockets. I have listened to grandma's bedtime stories, turning into a grocery list. There once was a pastor who ran away to become a farmer. He planted cucumbers, lettuce, milk, and Dutch biscuits. I have passed down the family fables to my younger cousins, to my many nephews and nieces. Here our ancestors held out their baskets as they baked their dough under the sun. Lavender has grown into an adolescent, a burning flame into a silent daughter. I have kissed the earth out of loneliness. Dirt, snow, and mooncakes taste the same. I have fallen in love with a stranger on the mountain, knowing I will never see her again. I have roamed the lands to find my grave. Here I have baptized myself shirtless in the waves of midnight. As the water fills my mouth, I can see the ashes rising to life.
Hello, good evening. This is Luisa Ternau. I'm going to read my poem, For So Sweet is the Sound of My Lute, which you can find on page 151 of the anthology Mingled Voices 3. First, I want to say a few words to introduce my poem. I grew up listening to a lot of music being played on the lute. Also, I lived and worked for 6 years in Japan. In this poem, reminiscences of a real geisha's interview are interwoven with a European medieval fantasy involving a beggar turned into a famous lute player, who is musing here on the perception of individuals' roles in society and on the toll that the pursuit of artistic creativity may take. So now I'm going to read my poem. For so sweet is the sound of my lute. With an icy look, she dismissed me, stating, most people are in need of society. Only a few by society are needed. I was poor too, but I understood the formula and worked my way to be needed greatly. Cover your wound, she yelled. You obviously made it yourself. It moves no one to pity. Thus, in my youth, I was harangued by a passing courtesan while begging by the main gate for me and my siblings. Now I wander from castle to city, from city to castle. I play my lute in beautiful halls where rich tapestries hang from the wall, mostly obtained by the killing of many people that in life may have been needed or not. Certainly their lot was to die in a battle not fully understood and be swallowed into rapid forgetfulness. I do not sport a self-inflicted wound now. I do not need to elicit pity to get more coins. But in my sojourning abroad, everyone runs to listen to my lute. Thus, I lost the shack I called home, where my siblings were waiting for me. In the notes of my lute, I can only but dream of it. Just the hope to play in heaven after all this wandering makes me go from castle to city, from city to castle and beyond. Along the path I may rest and play my lute to the trees, while I watch the sound reaching for the sun.
Hi everyone, I'm Anson from Hong Kong, and I will read my poem, Ride with a Spider. This is one of my past experiences in Hong Kong. Ride with a Spider. 88R, Central to City 1, in the middle of the afternoon. Nobody. Went to the upper deck for my favorite seat, the very front row facing the big window, feeling like sitting on a roller coaster. Several stops. Nobody. A spider the size of a lotus seed strolling around the top. A little frightened, I thought of moving, leaving the full view to the spider, watching closely and reluctant to move. The spider kept its manners, just striding backward and forward on the top, with no intention of invading. What a relief! I garrisoned my castle, enjoying the heat from the occasional sun. More stops. Nobody. The spider and me. City 1. Good morning, everyone. I'm Anson from Hong Kong, and today I'd like to read to you my poem, The Little One and the Sea. This is a poem about my boy, Arthur. When he was little, he always woke up earlier in the morning. I could not sleep, so I wrote this poem. The Little One and the Sea. The little one wakes up at 4 before the sun knocks at the door. He gazes through the windows, standing on his toes. Birds sing happily outside. He listens attentively inside. The sea blinks with a yawn, leaning back on the mountains. Still is the sea and the little one.
Hello everyone, my name is George Watt from Adelaide in South Australia. Today I'm very happy to be reading from Mingled Voices 3. The poem I have been asked to read is entitled Snake in Hiding by St. Peter's Billabong on page 171. The background to the poem is simple. I walk in a very large, very beautiful park every day. And one day, when I was on a path that was rarely used, I discovered a half-covered up snake built into the ground, made from bits of old glass and pottery. It's probably about 8 or 9 meters long and very beautiful. It took me a long time to discover where this snake came from, and when I wrote this poem, I didn't know the origin of the creature in the ground. But it turns out that a local Aboriginal artist worked with children from the nearby primary school, and they built this as part of the bicentennial celebration. It's a very beautiful thing, and even today, very, very few people know it's there, and even fewer spend time looking at it. So I'm happy to read this poem, Snake in Hiding by St. Peter's Billabong. The tail curls beside the path, half worn by odd passers-by. The head faces the water that's heavy, oily in midsummer heat. Surface scribbled by striders and swallows after them. The snake's scopic body lies in 3 languid waves that could have been copied from a child's drawing, tongue poking out between compressed lips. It used to be fragments of fine china, bright clay pots, and many huge shards of glass, given new life by a careful alchemist of no name, who set each little piece here in the good earth, under the gurgles of magpies by day and the buzz of sunset's cicadas. Though kaleidoscopic, she's easy to miss, snug under patches of sand and tufting scrub. Brush and cut, and there she is, safe in the ochre earth. Bright-eyed, venom-free, she waits, and will wait for waking time when her dry tongue will flicken, will moisten, and lead her bejeweled body to the water that also waits, the water that sings with voices of the many who came to drink, too many to count.